we are here, just to recollect. We came here. We said we'll understand myself. And when we examine ourselves as human beings, we find that there are two distinct entities, or distinct set of needs from which we kind of inferred that there could be two distinct entities. We still not concluded that there are two distinct entities, but very clearly two distinct set of needs. One set of needs which are mental or emotional in nature, which really are weightless, which are qualitative in nature. So if you look at it, the purpose of the need for the self is really things like happiness, respect, resolution, etc. Whereas the need of the body is nourishment, protection, and keeping the body healthy. In time, my needs are continuous. The needs of the body are sporadic. It comes and goes. You don't need it to be continuous. Uh, the nature of the need here is qualitative and weightless. Feeling good, feeling bad, feeling affection has no weight. All right, but giving food to somebody out of affection, that food has weight. But what's really getting communicated besides the food is also my bhav, my feeling, which is really weightless. So the tripti or fulfillment we get is twofold. One is from the food that we got, just a paid bhara, and the other is the feeling of gratitude that somebody helped me. Now, this feeling of gratitude or feeling good is really, qualitative. It's not quantitative and it has weight. It's not, whereas the gratitude itself is weightless. How is this fulfilled? I need to apply myself. So this is fulfilled by understanding. Understanding itself does not have any weight. Does understanding have any weight? No, it's weightless. Alright. We are able to visualize what understanding could be, but understanding by itself, by its own nature, is weightless, whereas everything that is needed for the body is really material in nature, so it is fulfilled by material things. When we look at the kind of activities, we saw that the self has the faculty of assuming or believing. If you recollect the small, set of thought experiments we did with the five senses, with the doctor poking the needle, listening to some music, and so on and so forth, our assumption or ability to believe um, really translates into our experience of that, um, external kind of contact that is happening on the senses. So really, we have the ability to believe, and we have the need to know, and we are able to know. We've been able to understand the fact that the Earth is not sitting on some other planet. It is actually kind of suspended, in void. This is because we have the faculty of knowing, right? And whereas if you see in the body, it just has recognition and response. And we saw that via various experiments. If you take a pin and you poke it, I poke you or you poke me, there will be blood coming out. But based on the intention of poking, the reception of how I would perceive that the particular event really changes. So activities like desiring, thinking, etc. are weightless. We'll get to that. So this really is called conscious. Okay. And if I'm conscious, and because I'm conscious, it means I'm able to understand. So that is called the seer. Seer का मतलब देखने वाला. For instance, we try to watch our breath, the breathing for about 1 minute, and you can see there's me and I'm watching the breath. It's coming and going, and I'm not the breath. Very clearly, the breath is in me, and I need to breathe as a human being, but I myself am not the breath. Similarly, I am the doer. I am the one that does things. I am the one that is standing up and talking. You are the one that is sitting. Sitting is also doing. It's not possible that the body on its own sits. You and I make the choice to sit, to walk, to talk. So really, I take responsibility for my actions. So I am the doer. I can't say, make a mistake in law and say this is not my fault. It is the brain's fault. Put my brain in jail. No, you, the entity, the human being, is then punished, right, or reformed. So I'm the doer and I'm the one that experiences things. So this is called Drishta, Karta, and Bhokta. The one who's getting the taste from the papaya that we had in the morning is the self. The nutrition from the papaya went to the body. And who decides what to put in the body? I decide. Should I be putting papaya? Should I be putting the chiku? Should I be not eating? Should I be eating? If I have to put the papaya, how many papayas do I put? How fast do I put? Do I mix the papaya with tea? Do I not mix the papaya with milk? Okay. All these decisions are taken in the self based on my assessment of my hunger, the health need of the body, what I like, what I don't like, पहले चाय पी के करूंगा नाश्ता, नाश्ता करके चाय पीऊंगा. All this is decided based on the preferences in the cell. It's not the body that decides that you have tea first and have I based on the mood. If it's too cold, then you're going to have extra tea and coffee, or a hot drink and so on and so forth. So all these decisions really are made in the cell. What happens in the body is a simple physicochemical reaction. So the body to me is an accessory. It's a sadhan to be able to do these three things. It allows me to experience the external world. Yeah, I can't taste the papaya just by staring at it. I have to take it and put it in my mouth to be able to get taste. If I need the happiness of just looking at the papaya, I can keep staring at it. बहुत अच्छा दिख रहा है papaya. Okay, but I have to take it and put it in my mouth. नहीं तो taste नहीं आएगा. Or to get the taste, I have to do an action. So the body really is an accessory. So this is a short summary of what we saw in the previous 1 or 2 sessions. So we will now wade into this area. We're now going to wade into this area. And this is where, is the tent open? Is your tent open? Is this stuff? Okay. No, because I just figured that the kids will target it next. They'll want to go in and put their toys and, put some sticks and stones and play inside. 2 kids are going, there are only 2 left, or one is already peeping inside. I think he tried to get in and he couldn't figure out how to zipper it out. So, okay. So these are some questions, just some broad questions. That is, why do I need to understand myself? Because I want to understand what I'm like. What really is me then? If I've not made the body, if I've not, chiseled the shape of my nose, if I haven't decided the shape of my eyes, the color of my eyes, alright, I haven't decided that I should have a knee, I happen to have a knee. घुटना है, हमने थोड़ी बनाया, बना हुआ है. Alright. So what really is me, and what happens in me? This was written for students, but I think it applies for us also as adults. How do we say we are successful? How do I get confident, or how do I have lack of confidence? Why do I have problems? How can I resolve these problems? All of us go through emotions like anger, frustration, and maybe depression sometimes. So why does that really happen? So there are some more questions like this, and how will I even know whether I'm a good or a bad person? All of us think we're nice people, all right? But the people around us say you're not so nice, or sometimes the world tells us we're not nice, and we insist, no, I'm still nice. That's how people who are perceived to be bad continue to do what they do, because they think they're doing the right thing. Okay? Let's say this country is getting attacked by any other country. That country thinks it's doing the right thing, and we think they're doing the wrong thing. And they actually think we are doing the wrong thing by not letting them attack. Ulta hai na? I want your land and you're not letting me have it. So now you are doing something wrong. So what really is right and wrong? And what makes us really different people? So these are some of the questions that we'll take up. And hopefully we'll be able to understand this a little better by understanding the human being. So we're going to be doing it in 8 whatever sections. I'm hoping that we'll be able to complete this by the end of the day. Let's see where we get to. Okay, and there is always going to be another day to be able to do this. I think by now you must have guessed that you can't probably or possibly gather all this in a span of 8 or 9 days. You can't crunch it in. So to me, the purpose of the introductory workshop is to be able to give you a glimpse of what needs to be done. Okay, and I'll kind of put out what I feel are or were the objectives of this workshop, and maybe we can collectively see whether we were able to fulfill those objectives. All right. So the first really is the ability of imagination and the freedom of action. Okay, and we'll look at what is the definition of a human being. So the first one is the ability of imagination. Before I came here, we had gone to Gangotri on a trip. Gangotri was closed, and it's a beautiful road. It's a very thin road. It goes by the size of the Himalayas, and you can see the Ganga. It's called the Bhagirathi. It becomes a Ganga as it goes ahead, and you flow. You kind of drive alongside the Ganga. So they're beautiful trees, and you start climbing. Uttarkashi is at about 4,500 feet, And as you go towards Gangotri, you're approaching 10,000 feet. So it's and in just about 2.5 hours. So as you go up, you can see, ice-clad peaks on both sides. Sometimes you can see, bluish snow in some places similar to Dalak, but that's not very, very common. This time when we were going, we saw that there was a dead cow by the side of the road, and its intestines had come out, and I could see its stomach and the gallbladder, and there was a lot of dogs kind of attacking and tearing at the cow, and the blood uh, spilled all over the road, right in the middle of the road. So we really stopped. So when you heard these words that I just said, what happened inside you? You started imagining things. Were you able to see the cow? It was a yellow cow, okay, and there was red blood, and there was a pack of wolves. So you can see the Ganga, you can see the peaks. I made up the cow. There was no dead cow, okay. And the rest of it was, something I've seen. This is called imagination. So as human beings, we have the ability to project something based either on language or direction. This is the first and fundamental difference we see exists between us and animals. आप अपने कुत्ते को लेकर you can't take a dog and describe another dog and the dog will not be able to imagine the other dog. Okay, it won't, actually one is it won't understand language, but even if you show it a movie of a dog, it's not going to be able to imagine that dog. You understand this? So we have the faculty of imagination. That's the first faculty we have. The second is we have the freedom of action. By listening to this, it's possible that you now start thinking, I too want to go to Uttarkashi and Gangotri someday, which is so beautiful, without the dead cow. Okay? And now that is a latent desire, a latent image that will be sitting inside you. And maybe 4-5 years from now, you earn some money, have some spare money, you have some time, and you're sitting at home wondering what to do. We have 10 days free, and this image of Uttarkashi will arrive from somewhere. यार वो 5 साल पहले उत्तरकाशी बोला था, you'll remember that. It'll go up. Nowadays, of course, it's easy. You don't need a guidebook. Go onto the internet, figure out how to get to Uttarkashi, do the bookings, go there, come back. That's called the freedom of action. And if the physics permits it, if the money permits it, and the people permit it, you will be able to execute the freedom of action. Nobody will be able to stop you. So we are able to do two things as humans. We are able to imagine and we are able to execute our imagination, provided it's allowed by the laws of nature. Okay. If you imagine I want to fly to Uttarkashi without an aeroplane by myself, do you think that's possible? No. So there are images or imagination that I can have that's not permissible in nature. I imagine that the Ganga should flow in the opposite direction. I can imagine it, but will it happen? No. इससे क्या समझ में आता है? We are able to imagine, and what we imagine may or may not be true. Okay? And as long as it is physically possible, and of course financially possible, and socially possible, you will be able to go ahead and execute your action. So we have two things. It is called the freedom of ability of imagination, the freedom of action. We call it kalpanashilta and karma swatantrata. So let's see what kalpanashilta and karma swatantrata are. So all of us imagine, again, this was an example for students in a classroom, but it happens also here. We're physically staring at the board, but we've mentally taken off somewhere else sometimes. Sometimes we just blank out. Okay, this is how imagination works. And we usually call this daydreaming. When we are there, but somewhere else. And this ability for daydreaming is something very interesting that we like to, explore further. We also have the freedom of action. So not only are we able to image things, we are also able to analyze them. If you want to build a house, or like let's say he set up a tent, the image of him sleeping in a tent was already there in him the day he arrived. In fact, it was there the day you left Patiala. And he'd already planned for it, which is why he carried the tent, which is why he set it up. So from inception to execution, we have an inception, we take the image, we open it up, and then you figure out how you're going to do it, how you're going to carry it, where you'll set up the tent, when you'll set it up, whether it will be set up through the day. And then there will be preferences inside it. Will I allow cows to come into my tent? Will I allow kids to come into my tent? Right? And this in sum total makes up our experience. And there's a freedom of action. As long as the people here allow it, the law of physics allows you, you can set up the tent. If one of these two falls, you won't be able to do it. If there was no gravity, you can't set up a tent. You need a stone a structure like this that's kind of hugging the soil, right? There is gravity, which is why you can set up the tent. So as humans, we can do things as long as it is permissible in nature. We'll also see later when it comes to things in the environment that as humans, we can do things as long as it doesn't upset nature too much. Is समझ में आता है? The freedom of action and freedom of imagination. So we do two things, and we'll start with these things. We observe and we express. Observation का मतलब क्या है? देखना. We understand. So when we come, we understand. For instance, this morning I told Santosh Bhaiya there's no water. So then he said he'll turn on the pump. I said I'll also come and help you. So I saw he just went behind the wall and he came out. He said it was here. After some time, I found that the water was overflowing. So I just went there and turned. I went there. I found a box. I figured that was a starter. So I just pressed the red button, came. But I भूल गया आपको बोलना बंद कर दिया मैंने. Water was overflowing. So that's observation. When we observe, we are able to understand. This is a very simple thing to understand. That the starter machine for the pump stays here. And we are able to express. So as humans, we can do both things. We can observe and express. Again, when we observe, we are usually and we are aided by the sense organ. We understand using all five senses. Okay. When you hear, for instance, in a lecture or in a conversation like this, you're picking up the words. And then you interpret the words and make some meaning. And then if you're able to get to the meaning, I say, I'm able to understand what you said. Or if you're able to follow how I reached here, you're able to say, हाँ मेरे को समझ में आया. If you don't realize how we got here, or बीच में I took off in my daydream, then I say, I lost you. You have to repeat, please come back. Make sense? So you can see this for all five senses. Again, there's a small brain there. I told you some lecturer in some college, put together the PowerPoint. I'm just playing around with it from the book that was written. And then we express outside. So expressing is in two. We are either expressing with material nature or with people. There are two kinds of expressions you're doing. Like when you're doing farming, your expression is with the soil. When you're milking the cow, you're interacting with the cow. That's the expression that you're doing. We've understood what the cow is, how to milk it, when to milk it. Based on that, I'm able to express. Okay? So, observation and expression is very natural to us human beings. We don't have to do anything special for it. You don't have to go to college to understand that you have to observe and express. अपने आप होता है. But the input, right, has to be given by somebody. So we are constantly making this. We are constantly observing and expressing is something that we can conclude. So, however, when we look at observing and expressing itself, do you think that's separable? Do you think you can only observe and not express? Or you can only express and not observe? Possible है. मैं केवल समझूंगा, बाहर कुछ नहीं निकलेगा. And I will only express and there will be no understanding. Is it possible for humans? ये दोनों होगा. They're inseparable. The other thing is it visible through the eyes? Can you see your observation power through the eyes? ये आँख से दिखता है? नहीं दिखता है. You can see something, but the fact that you're observing is something that you have to do via self-scrutiny. For example, when I ask everybody observe, we understand the fact that we're observing. Is this clear? You can't see through the eyes. So for all the activities in the self, this is what we'll have to do. You remember yesterday I said you'll have to listen to it without bias, and then you have to observe it in yourself to find out whether it's true. You can't do it outside. You will not get proof outside. It's just not possible. External proof, sensory proof, आंखों से नहीं दिखेगा. If I have to understand myself, कान से नहीं दिखेगा, जीभ से नहीं दिखेगा, नाक से नहीं दिखेगा. I won't be able to see through the five senses. I have to do self-observation. There is no other way. There are some observations on imagination. Number one, a physical handicap in the body does not affect our ability for imagination. For instance, if somebody is blind, do you think they can imagine? They can. They will not have the images that we have, फिर भी उसका कल्पना तो चलता है. Do you think a blind person desires respect? Desires respect? Yes. Does a blind person want, affection, happiness? Do they also want to understand? They want to. But they only say, I can't see. And they figure out some other way to see. So they see through their hands. They tap and they find out what's ahead. So seeing is aided by the five senses and imagination is not stopped by a physical handicap. The ability of imagination is also unaffected by temporary states of the body. Do we stop imagining when we are hungry? No. Actually, the imagination shifts to food then. जैसे इधर बैठा है, एक बज गया और छोड़ ही नहीं रहा है, सवा बज गया, डेढ़ बज गया, then this goes blank and the smell from there will start coming. आज बाकरी बना है, बेंडकाय बना है, क्या बना था, पोड़ी बना है ना? Or worse still, you will go back to Bangalore or Delhi or wherever you came from and think of that restaurant because all the images of food will start arriving as soon as I'm hungry. And the moment hunger is over, the stomach is full, those images will go back. We typically don't think of food when you are not hungry. खाना खाने के बाद आप किसी को मेनू कार्ड दे दो, बोलेगा यार रख दो यार कल आऊंगा. But when you are hungry and you are looking at the menu card, the menu card itself looks very tasty, है ना? Just going to the menu card, idli खाऊंगा, वड़ा खाऊंगा, it's because those images are arriving inside, and we are actually tasting the pizza or idli or vada or whatever it is we want to eat even before it is actually arrived. If the tasting is happening inside. Okay. So we can also see that this ability to imagine is across all age groups. Do children imagine? Do old people imagine? Everybody imagines. There is nobody that will not imagine. We can also see that it exists in humans regardless of caste. है ना? जाति के अनुसार एक जाति में है, दूसरे जाति में नहीं है, not possible. हाँ, what he will imagine about his jati will be different, but imagination will be there. Okay, and we'll come to that. Similarly, about creed, with religion, with affiliation, with gender, no, males, females, all kinds of human beings have imagination. Like everybody has a kidney, everybody has imagination. The power of imagination is unaffected by the time of the day. We also imagine when we are asleep, and that's what happens when you're dreaming. In the state of dreaming, imagination keeps continuing, right? And that's what we call as dreams. You're basically imagining what is not possible in dreams. जो दिन में नहीं कर सकता हूँ और आपको सपने में आता है. नहीं, whatever I was not able to fulfill, I was not able to beat up somebody in the daytime. I beat him up in the night when I'm sleeping, when I'm dreaming. So this happens, and it is also inexhaustible. It is irrespective of how much you eat, and it never stops. Do you think a poor man imagines less than a very rich, well-fed man? No. The object of his imagination will be different, but imagination will still continue. Okay. Last point. Does imagination have weight? वजन है क्या? No. Imagination itself doesn't have weight. Okay. We get tired of imagination when? Under two circumstances. One is we are not clear about the imagination. Secondly, we are imagining the impossible, which we know is not possible. You know, somebody told me this. It's not a joke, it's what really happened. A reporter went and asked Pranab Mukherjee, है ना, क्या आप भारत का प्रधानमंत्री बनना चाहते हैं? Do you want to be the Prime Minister of India? You know what Pranab Mukherjee's answer was? His answer was, कोई अपना इच्छा से प्रधानमंत्री नहीं बन सकता है. You cannot become the Prime Minister just because you desire it. There is a series of events that make you the PM. So many people want to be PM. कुछ होता है और आप PM बन जाते हो. The same reporter went and asked Lalu Prasad Yadav. Okay? Cattle fodder वाला, है ना? Cattle fodder scam वाला. आप क्या प्रधानमंत्री बनना चाहते हैं? Lalu's answer was, कौन नहीं बनना चाहेगा? Who will not want to be the Prime Minister? But see, it's not realistic. Pranav is a very intelligent answer. Basically, Pranab is happy because he knows that just because he is able and capable and desire, he cannot be that. So, but if I try and imagine, just because I can imagine that I should be the Prime Minister of India, when it's not possible and it's not happening, that's going to tire me out because it's a desire that's never going to be fulfilled. If you remember yesterday, we spoke of desires and he said, what is the probability of achievement of that desire? Is it even valid? Sometimes we carry invalid desires in us, and that's what's going to tire us off. Or desires that are not clear, and that tires us out. Like if this workshop, I mean, when this workshop starts tiring us, when does it happen? When we've had two sessions, it's closer to lunch or closer to the end of the day. Now there's too much of information to process. We don't know how we got here. We missed some lines. ये तो बोलते चले गया, है ना, निकल गया ये तो. Now that tires me out, and that's good because that's how you'll come back, right? Otherwise, you won't come back. If after 1, 7 or 8 days you feel you understood all of existence, why would you even come back? You wouldn't come back. So this is when we tire out. Okay, you're already looking tired with the answer on tiredness. So we saw this. There is no size or weight to imagination. Another interesting point, which is the second bullet there, is that imagination is not limited to the confines of the body. This is one significant difference between us and animals. The animal होता है, it cannot imagine जैसे ये गाय है, it cannot imagine धारवाड़ का गाय क्या कर रहा है. उसको जितना गाय दिखता है उतना ही दिखता है? बट हमको सबका गाय हमको चाहिए, है ना? वी वांट एवरीबॉडीज काउ. सो our imagination is beyond the confines of this body. Where does it go to? Our entire galaxy. I was watching something to वहां से number लिखा. I told you this cosmologist called Neil deGrasse Tyson. उसका 30 second आया था. Our galaxy, which is called the Milky Way galaxy, has between their estimate 100 billion and 2 trillion stars. That is either 10,000 crores or 2 lakh crores planets in this Milky Way galaxy. How many galaxies exist? Between 100 million and 2 trillion. If you take the outer limit, human imagination कहां तक जा रहा है? 2 lakh crores into 2 lakh crores. Multiplication, right? कितना जाएगा? 2 lakh crores into, not 2 crores, but 2 lakh crores into 2 lakh crores. 2 lakh crore into 2 lakh crore. 2 lakh square crore. है ना? आई थिंक यहाँ हाँ विजुअलाइज करना. इतने प्लैनेट्स हैं दैट वी, तो इमेजिनेशन कहां तक गया आदमी का? इधर बैठ के. Interesting, no? Like we landed on the moon. We, as in the spacecraft, landed on the moon. Sitting here, a human being is able to compute what should be the rate of descent on a planet, on the side of the planet that he has never gone to. देखो इधर से भी नो, इधर से कूदने के लिए इतना फोर्स चाहिए. But he is able to do it on a planet he has never gone to based on observation and calculation. The calculation is able to predict or project what exists there. So we are able to see that we are able to project, to be able to understand things beyond the confines of our body. Make sense? This is something we can all validate. So this brings us to the definition of a human being. Not only are we able to visualize, we are able to actualize our mental vision. And we desire healthiness of mind. मतलब क्या है? हम सुखी होना चाहते हैं. तो नीचे I have written it in Hindi, in Romanized Hindi, मनाकार को साकार करना. मन में जो आकार है उसको साकार करना. Like the people who built this campus, मन में वो आकृति बनी थी. I make a farmhouse, I have a vision of a farmhouse in my mind. And then उसको साकार कर पाए, I go and actualize it. बट एक तृप्ति ये होता है ना, कि मैं अपना फार्म हाउस बना लिया. बट द अदर तृप्ति इज हाउ विल आई फील सिटिंग इनसाइड द फार्म हाउस. दैट इज मनस्वस्थता. आई ऑल्सो वांट टू बी हैप्पी सिटिंग इनसाइड द फार्म हाउस. हाउ विल आई इंटरेक्ट विथ माई वाइफ, चिल्ड्रन, हस्बैंड, फादर, मदर सिटिंग इनसाइड द फार्म हाउस. वो मिसिंग चले जाता है ना, रिलेशनशिप या व्हाट विल आई डू व्हेन आई एम asleep and so on. So this is really the definition of a human being. So human being is not a social animal. Okay, and human being is also not an illusion. Remember, we took two options. One is Adhyatmavad, spiritualism, in which we have said human being is a son of God or daughter of God, or as the case may be. One possibility, or human being is an illusion. ये एक possibility है, रहता है लेकिन last नहीं करता है, so illusory है. The other option is human being is a social animal, सामाजिक प्राणी. That is materialism. What are we saying? No, the human being is somebody who actualizes his mental vision and desires healthiness of mind. Basic shift है ये. Okay, all good. बताइए. Yeah, right there. Mic on नहीं है सर. Yeah. Healthy state of mind. Yeah. So that is state of non-conflict between my thoughts, between my experiences, between my imagination and my understanding. ये जो हमारी चार आयाम थे ना, that we do on the first day, spiritual, intellectual, and behavioral and material. We don't want any conflict between this. It's not contradictory. It's just a different definition. I'm not saying it is contradictory. It's a different, altogether different definition. Man being a social animal का मतलब है कि, so the way you could ask the question is, how is it any different from that? And it's different because if you're a social animal, basically your motive is restricted to food, sleep, fear and coitus. That's what animals do. पूरा दिन खाता है, सोता है, भय से भागता है, and during mating season it goes and mates. And based on its breed, it will either take care of the children or it will run away. This is what animals, they don't do anything else. They stay alive. So this is called Jinda Rehna. They are just staying alive. Human beings want to live, they want to stay alive with happiness, with imagination. And imagination is a inherent part. So in human beings, what is happening is, we have this. If you look at this, this is in animals, okay? For now, I'll come to this dishti much later. Plus, 5 sensory pleasure, plus progeny, wealth and fame motive, plus imagination. This whole thing put together is happiness for human beings. See, like for instance, if we examine ourselves and we say, do I want to die? Like somebody wants to commit suicide. What is the easiest way? Stop eating. Nobody wants to die. If somebody wants to die, then it means that they feel that not existing is going to be better than existing. So he's doing it for happiness. Or I go and eat a samosa, listen to music, buy a car and do all that. Or I'm trying to understand something with my imagination. Or I want a child. Then I want the child to be educated. Then I want it to be a good human being. Then I want wealth to take care of my body and my family and my needs and my sensory needs. And then I also want to be recognized. Fame need not necessarily mean that you make it to the front cover of Time magazine. है ना? Fame is also just like pehchan. He's so and so, she's so and so. Okay? So this is how a human being. So if you're only a social animal, then we are only animalistic and we are only trying to come together in group. That's a very limited definition. Don't you think so? Alright? In materialism. So this is the definition of the human being.
imagination and freedom of work, like we can achieve a practical result which we want to.
Yeah.
But suppose
I can't go. You ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು.
if I'm not able to implement something,
Yeah.
so that means I lack the strong desire in me. So that is the only reason that उसमें
No, not
केवल
just the strong desire.
इच्छा
Some
की कमी है.
नहीं केवल इच्छा की कमी नहीं है. Sometimes we have desires for which we don't have the means to fulfill. That I want a farmhouse. A farmhouse costs 20 lakhs. I don't have 20 lakhs. So the primary desire is to have a farmhouse. The plan of action to achieve that farmhouse is to get 20 lakhs. Now I have to make a plan to get 20 lakhs. So actually, this is how we live our lives, right? So in fact, how we are now currently in the job world or in the business world, how is life starting? I want money. वो मनी से क्या मिलेगा उससे क्या मिलेगा फाइनली क्या चाहिए उधर नहीं है वॉट वी ट्राइंग डाउन हियर इज बॉटम अप फाइनली व्हाट डू आई वांट कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव हैप्पीनेस उसको पूरा करने के लिए क्या चाहिए देन हाउ विल आई गेट इट देन हाउ विल आई गेट इट सो बोथ आर पॉसिबल वन इज माई डिजायर इज नॉट स्ट्रॉन्ग इनफ द सेकेंड इज माई डिजायर इज फाइन बट आई डोंट हैव द मीन्स टू डू इट समटाइम्स द मीन्स इज मनी समटाइम्स इट इज की यू नो फॉर एग्जाम्पल थिंक ऑफ पॉलिटिशियंस हु वांट टू बी इलेक्टेड उनके अंदर डिजायर है कि मैं एमपी बन जाऊं उसके हाथ में है कि एमपी बनना नहीं एवरीबडी इन दैट कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी शुड आल्सो थिंक दैट ही शुड बी द एमपी कितना बड़ा इच्छा है नाउ ही हैज टू गो अराउंड कन्विंसिंग 4.5 लाख पीपल कि मैं एमपी बनूंगा बहुत मुश्किल है इसलिए उनकी हालत खराब हो जाती है बहुत मुश्किल है भैया एक आदमी कन्विंस होता नहीं वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू कन्विंस योर ओन सन टू कम गो गेट अप एंड सिट देयर आपने बेटे को बोल के देखो इधर से उधर बैठी कीप लुकिंग एट यू उठता ही नहीं है फिर डंडा लेना पड़ता है नहीं तो बोलना पड़ेगा तेरे को खाना नहीं मिलेगा और यो से मैं तेरा बाप हूं मेरी बात सुन नहीं सुनता है ये एक आदमी नहीं सुनता है ना वो थोड़ी देर के बाद हिलते हैं कि तू मेरा बाप हो गया तो क्या हो गया है ना काय को पैदा किया फिर मेरे को ही ऑलवेज गेट बैक एट यू
जैसे हम इमेजिन करते हैं कि लाइक देयर आर फॉर एग्जांपल थ्री ऑप्शंस like if I want to do something like there are three good options very good options लेकिन why there is happens like like इसमें डिसीजन नहीं ले पाते हैं कि कौन सा करना चाहिए
क्लैरिटी नहीं है
तो
दे
क्लैरिटी
आर ऑल वीक because we've not studied it strongly enough. For instance, let's take very simple example. When in 2002, when I quit my job, I went back to Pune and I met some of my old classmates in engineering. So, क्या हो गया नौकरी छोड़ दिया what will you do I don't know I'm going to travel where will you go I said I'm going to Ladakh and Kashmir for a few months and then I'm going to travel the country and then I'll figure out what to do with my life then we went to Ladakh Kashmir I went back home after about 2 or 3 months all right so we met again चाय पे कॉफी पे कट्टे पे क्या किया ये देखा अरे यार superb man we too want to do it हो गया it's been 22 years none of them went anywhere outside Maharashtra they're still there right we'll see it it's called a subtle desire सूक्ष्म इच्छा हमारे अंदर इमेज रहती है but it's not strong enough it's not clear enough 43 people signed up for this workshop क्यों क्योंकि तो filling up the form was free है ना 500 रुपए यदि हम भरने का रखते तो they would not have filled it out of 43 that filled it only 15 made it here 3 got back saying कुछ हो गया my mother had some operation my wife is unwell those who had signed up the rest are radio silence we sent 3 emails we sent personal messages on the what is this it's a subtle desire it's something vague 4 months ago when we sent it out something is going to happen somewhere in Dharwad by the time December arrives you have other priorities wife wants to go to Goa I got bored I think I'll go listen to a lecture on meditation pata nahi udhar kya hoga so lack of clarity if we are able to somehow capture, let us say, the experience of this workshop and show it to them, saying this is what you're going to get, then the success rate is higher. We're not able to be clear about what we want. Number one. Depends on आप क्या चाहते हैं ना and उसके लिए फिर ये करना पड़ेगा and sometimes we're limited by our own capability वो कल बात किया था that is our पात्रता the top part of the isosceles triangle stage of development हमारा ये नहीं रहता for instance for some of us we are not able to sit and take in too much of information after some time it gets tiring So one of the advantages of modern education, it has taught us to sit in one place. नहीं तो ह्यूमन बींग भागता रहता ना इधर उधर. इट्स वेरी इजी. वो तो गाय बकरी भी कर ही रहा है, चिड़िया भी करती है. हु इज लिविंग मोर नेचुरली, मी और द बर्ड? द बर्ड. आप कुछ भी कर लो, यू कैन नॉट बी फुली नेचुरल. एज ए ह्यूमन बींग यू विल डिस्टर्ब समथिंग. जस्ट नॉट पॉसिबल, राइट? So what modern education is really, one good thing is, somebody in Rajkot, one of the professors there, he called it Asan Siddhi. Asan, to be sitting in one place and be able to concentrate on one thing. ये एक बड़ा देन है शिक्षा का, अभी का एक बड़ा देन. Okay. Sometimes we've not done that since childhood. So we don't have the capability. Sometimes we've not spent enough time with books. It's an undeveloped area. So now I have to learn how to read books and interpret the meaning. Sometimes we will see within my mind, I have not really paid attention to certain aspects of reality. I'll take this example. We are saying we will discuss these four areas: knowledge of myself, knowledge of existence, so natural, the world, and everything else, knowledge of relationships, family, society, and nature. Okay, and with nature, let us add one thing: knowledge of the body. Yeah, knowledge of myself plus the body. Do you think out of all the people sitting in this room here, 20 of us, all of us have equal interest for all these subjects, all these areas? No, सबका अलग है. Somebody is more interested in body, somebody is more interested in nature, nature-friendly techniques. Somebody's pain point right now is a mother-in-law, father-in-law, brother, child, पता नहीं क्या करना है. Somebody is too old, they are wondering what is going to happen to me after I die. Somebody has just been born, वो बोलता है यार मरने की बात क्यों करता, let me live. So everybody has different, interest areas. So what really happens is, based on our different interest areas, we develop our abilities in different avenues, and that seems interesting to us. You understand? So in some cases we've not developed in certain areas. Sometimes we don't have the capability. Sometimes that desire is not here. Sometimes we don't know how to fulfill that desire. Sometimes for some desires we know how to fulfill it, but we don't have the means. Those means are sometimes monetary. Okay. I mean, I would like to conduct an introductory workshop once a year. सुनने के लिए कोई चाहिए ना. Nobody wants to listen to it. I'm telling you. And Gujarat is different. Gujarat, there are people for everything. Gujarat. So I'm joking. I'm just giving an example. So if I have a desire कि मेरे को हर महीना धारवाड़ में शिविर करना है, वो वैलिड डिजायर है कि गलत डिजायर है? इट्स अ गुड डिजायर. मैं पैसा तो ले नहीं रहा हूँ, चोरी तो सिखा नहीं रहा हूँ. I'm trying to communicate something useful. Even if existence is not that, this is not there, कम से कम आदमी चोरी तो बंद करेगा इसको सुन के. ठीक है, जबकि हम एक भी बार नहीं बोलते डोंट स्टील, राइट? But if I have a desire to have a workshop in Dharwad every month, do you think that's valid or invalid? It's invalid because nobody will come. Why? Because nobody is aware. Why? Because nobody is looking, nobody is interested. Right now, if you go to Dharwad, it's very busy. People are buying, selling, eating, thinking, and doing दो number का काम also. Everything will be happening. किसको फुर्सत है? Nobody has the interest. And for those who have the interest, they don't know where to go. There must be 100 people in Dharwad today who would have liked to come. But we are not aware of them, they are not aware of us. So एक संयोग भी होता है, एक समय भी होता है. You have to wait for it. You understand? So even if everything is right, there is an external dependency, and I have written it there. It's there in the, in the slide, and I will write it here again. There is an external dependency. It's like wanting to become a member of parliament. There is an external dependency, and you have to be prepared for the fact that you will lose. तभी तो अगले साल वो फिर से हिम्मत करके खड़ा होता है. Politician is not such a simple thing, very difficult. He has lost, and next year he'll try again and again and again. So he is prepared to lose also, which is why he can do it all over again. Uh, so when we are unaware, which is the state we are in right now in delusion, we don't have any control over images and our desires and things. But as we become clearer and clearer, what will happen is those desires that are not according to the way reality is, after I have validated it, they will automatically start disappearing. Number one, some will just, it's like when you take light towards darkness, what will happen to darkness? It just, yeah, it will not move on. It just cease to exist because it was not there to begin with. So some wrong images, false images will just simply sublimate. That's one thing that will happen. The other thing that may happen is that it may not sublimate, but it will go to the background. It is no longer very important. It is not in the foreground. The important desires are what number two, number three, number four में चले जाएगा. Then, as we are able to proceed, is getting irritated with the sound. Children के लिए it gets, they have a small brain. It can't process so much. It's still developing. So that so they need a break where there's no sound. That's what's happening. It used to happen to my daughter. We'd come take her and sit in something like this, and then they get bugged with it. So, but as we move up in our understanding, then yeah, you will reach a stage where you will only have the control, as in you will only have those desires that you want, and you will not have the ones that you don't want. Prioritize your desire. We can prioritize it. Some some sticky ones may take time. सबके लिए अलग अलग होता है ना. But yeah, theoretically yes. Practically, you'll have to know how to do it, what is the understanding for it, and try and practice it. And it will take time. So the big ones will be easy. The very deep ones sometimes take time. Let's see, there is a habit or a tendency in me that I know is wrong, but I am compulsive. I'm not able to stop it. So how will it go? So when I'm able to see a larger picture, okay, let's see, I have a habit of stealing things. Okay, क्यों मजा आता है, जस्ट बिकम अ हैबिट. मैं इधर उधर से चीजें उठा लेता हूँ, किसी के घर जाता हूँ उठा के पॉकेट में डाल देता हूँ, दुकान जाता हूँ पुट इन माय पॉकेट. पीपल आर लाइक दैट, इट्स नॉट दैट दे वांट इट, उसमें बहुत पैसा हो, मजा आता है. इट बिकेम अ हैबिट नाउ, अ मेंटल हैबिट. हाउ विल इट गो? इफ यू टेल हिम डोंट डू इट, इट्स रॉन्ग, he too knows it's wrong. Okay, somewhere one day his wife catches him like, क्या कर रहे हैं, I don't do it. So if you are caught, you may stop. But next, for some people, if that is a little more intense, he's going to do it when his wife is not there. या पत्नी नहीं है तब करूंगा. Now how will it go? Now for it to go, you have to talk about what your existential purpose is, what is society, what is family, what is existence, why did you come. In that entirety, he'll say, "Arey, actually, what am I doing? It's so small." Goes off, or at least it'll go down, 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 and then finally it'll be gone. So the smaller the confusions that we have, the problems that we have will often disappear in the light of a larger answer. Even today it is that way, without really. See, let us say Karnataka and Maharashtra are fighting. Tomorrow when Pakistan attacks us, what happens? They come together, they shout at them. Huh? Then when aliens attack, what happens? This Trump, George Bush, Narendra, everybody get together and say, usko maro. So it's a negative answer, but in a larger frame वो छोटा झगड़ा खत्म हो जाता है. अभी भी ऐसे ही है. पिक्चर में दिखाते हैं एलियन अटैक, all the world people are attacking them, all of humanity. ऐसा नहीं होता है कि ओनली मुसलमान बोलेगा मैं तो मरूंगा तू लड़ उससे, नहीं तो भूल जाएगा कौन तो उसको मार पहले. बाद में अपन निपटेंगे मुस्लिम में कि क्या है. Okay. So in the bigger picture, so if you see really what are we doing here, we are trying to find out what is the big picture of life, and you slowly realize it is the largest possible picture of life. It's not this big picture; it is the largest possible picture. इससे बड़ा picture होता नहीं, हो ही नहीं सकता है. That is called the fulfillment of the point of imagination. कल्पनाशीलता का तृप्ति बिंदु. Okay. So I will draw this here. So we will start with some activities of the self. and we'll slowly start exploring it. Again, this is an introduction. Uh, if you choose to continue with it, then of course, I'm going to rub these desires. You can still hang on to them, okay? And and then validate them and see what fits where. Okay, I will just clean up that slide before I send it. तो थोड़ा सा hotspot हो गया है. But by the end of the workshop, I'll send you the entire deck, and this is something worthwhile. So these are my desires. So you see, for me to be close to the darshan environment, I told you, where I have this environment. Now that decision is not just mine; it has a lot of external dependencies. I have to know where to go. Those people should want to have me there. I have old parents. My wife's parents are old. They may not be. It's not a dependency. So I've kept this desire on standby. It's just there, and when the right chance comes, I will do it. Okay. But for me to be able to get rid of unwanted tendencies in me, now that's up to me. Nobody's stopping me from outside. Okay. If I choose to pay attention to it and I choose to study, to deepen my study, my practice, that's also up to me. Right? Instead of sitting and watching YouTube or sitting under the tree and staring at the sun, I can, at when I'm staring at the sun, I can be paying attention to the space between me and the sun. That's part of the practice. Things like that. Okay. So we will. So we have the method. Maybe so we'll take up that.
Hello.
Yeah. Huh.
We have talked about Kalpna शीलतया तृप्ति.
Ah. हाँ.
तो अखंड समाज और समग्र अस्तित्व,
हाँ.
ये यही है दर्शन की अंतिम तृप्ति बिंदु.
हाँ. ठीक है. Yeah. I'll take a picture of this so I can move it to that. Um, So we still have these 2 points. What is ethical and is killing plants? Do plants have blood? We'll come to that. But the short answer is you can happily eat plants. They won't protest. They have no feeling. You think plants are conscious? After having discussed so much about consciousness, you think plants feel pain? No. They're not conscious. So what is conscious? Murga. That's why when you try to catch it, it runs. Yeah. Some birds, like the parrot, the macaw, they have consciousness. Macaw, I had a client who was a Cuban in Miami. So how Miami bolte. He had a macaw. So when we used to have a conference call, it would talk from the back. And it would listen to our conversations and repeat it. I'd been to his house in Miami. He was this much, 5'2". So he was very conscious about his short height. So he had bought a Hummer, the big one, not that H3, I think the H1 or the H5, I forget what range it is. Hummer एक गाड़ी होता है, you will know what a Hummer is. So he was this short, he almost needed a ladder to get into the Hummer. To feel big, he had bought a very big car. खुद तो गुटका है ना, खुद का तो साइज बड़ा नहीं हो सकता, गाड़ी बड़ा ले लिया. मैं बड़ा हूं बताने के लिए, खुद तो बेचारा इतना था. His name was, I remember his name. His name was Jesus Ramirez Perez. Jesus is Jesus. Jesus को Jesus बोलते हैं. Jesus Ramirez Perez. तो एंग्लिसाइज होके जो पेरेज हो गया था. So the activities, the conscious self. I won't use the word I here because we'll see that the I is a set of all these activities. So the first activity we have is what you call as tasting and choosing. For instance, when you got the invitation to come to this workshop, uh, on your phone there would have been what 100, 200, 300, 400 messages in that time duration, maybe 50. Out of all those messages, one particular message caught your attention, and you decided to give it a little more time. Otherwise, you're just scrolling by, right? Read and read, read and read, read and read. What's really happening? You're trying to choose where to pay attention. Based on what? Based on what your taste preference is. And we saw that we're tasting using three means. We've already seen that, so I'm going to write it here. One is sensory. Okay. The other is relations or feeling. And the third is so if my preference for tasting, and this is really the domain from which we experience things, okay, and this is the body. So there's exchange of information between the cells and the body, and the five senses are in the body. So out of all the posters that are going by, there have been a poster of a nice looking boy or girl, depending on your age. Poster of food. Maybe somebody had sent some information about a nice jacket sale. Instead of all that, you pick one, uh, you know, which appeals to you. So what is really happening? There is a taste in me, and based on that, I make a choice outside. Okay. When this happens, what else do we do? When we choose, we start thinking about this. What is this workshop about? And as you read more and more, as you pick up more and more information, something else starts happening. We start forming an image, right? Some kind of visual about what will happen in the workshop. All right. Now the visual is strong enough, and if time is permitting and everything else is fine, then we'll say, okay, I'm going to go to this workshop, and then this forms a desire. So let me go. Then you have to go. Then you will start thinking again of how to go. कैसे जाऊंगा, book the train ticket, we'll do that kind of calculation. And then when this thinking is over, we'll go ahead and we make a choice saying, okay, I'm going to go for the workshop. So that's when you go and actually book the ticket and so on and so forth. We'll take this part slow because till now we were a agglomeration of the body. We said, okay, we have separate some. So we left the body below the board. We have come into the cell. Okay. बॉडी नीचे रह गया कुछ भी एक्सरसाइज डाइजेशन डायबिटीज हाइपरटेंशन सब नीचे है समझ में आता है we left that behind and this you think this is going to be visible using the eyes no we'll have to examine ourselves and see whether this is how we operate sorry huh that examination as intense as our desire so like I said as we let me just write it in a different color maybe this well it is basically if what is being said is this is who you are, and for some time, and after some time you'll feel hungry, and then you'll have to go and eat. And then after some time, your wife or son or father will call and say, "I need to go to this place. Take me there," and you'll go there. So where is this? When we are deciding, when we are discussing this, when you're examining this, which dimension, which aspect of your living are you getting into? किधर जा रहे? ठीक है ना? So you spend some time here, and then this will call, this will call, this will call, this will call, this will call. Okay, this will call. I've written system because system also includes the material dimension. All right? अभी तो कोई बुला नहीं रहा है ना. We are well fed. We've left behind our whatever. We don't have any family responsibilities here. We don't have any work related things. We don't want to sit here and keep admiring nature. So we've gone inside here. So this is where you're interacting with the outside world. This is why I wrote experiencing the world. This is where we experience the world from. I'll write this in a different color. So like if you take this instance, I want to taste something. So I already have a visual. I have a visual of a pizza sitting inside me like a memory. Okay. When I feel like eating a pizza, what do? Then I think about it. So what am I going to do? I'm going to analyze. What will I analyze? Where will I get the pizza from? Like things like how much it is going to cost and so on and so forth. And why do I do that? Because in the body I'm hungry. There is an input that came from the body saying I am hungry. So this sensory tasting expectation kicks up. This in turn kicks up an old memory. See, I just ate sambar rice yesterday, so today it's time for pizza. I will analyze it. Then I will again, that expectation of the taste will again come. Then I will make a plan saying I will go to so and so shop. Then you will say I don't want to go alone. Let me call a friend. You will call up that friend. Do you want to come? Or say let's go with the family. Sometimes you will say today is too soon. Let us go after 3 days. Sometimes you cannot bear it and you say aaj hi khana hai. Even if there is nobody, I'll go and eat it alone. Right? We'll call somebody, head out to the shop, sit there with the expectation. The menu will come. Choose which particular pizza you want to eat. Wait for the taste, wait for the thing to come. Put it in your mouth, taste it, and then get this experience that we were deciding. So a simple expectation for the desire of from the pizza will take us on a very long journey inside and a whole set of planning before you are actually able to get that experience. Yeah, 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 yeah. It'll improvise our consciousness. इनको mic दे दीजिए. हाँ. Yeah,
physically doing things, and we are channeling our seven chakras or whatever it is, and we are energy wise we are developing our physically and mentally and energy wise, and we are improving our conscious, right?
No, no, no. No, no,
See,
I think we both came close. That's all. Let me move aside. Yeah.
okay.
These two mics are like male and female. They don't want to come together. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what really happening, right? Like,
Yeah.
ultimately we are trying to develop our consciousness, whether it is in
Yeah.
intellectual way or
We are trying to develop our consciousness, but before trying to develop our consciousness, we are first trying to examine what is happening. That's one. The second thing is, okay, so now, so yoga is a big discussion. So I'll try and do it in like 3 minutes. Okay. Because it will take 20, at least 3 hours. Uh, the yoga is a means to be able to actualize the teaching of the Sankhya Darshan. The Sankhya is a darshan that talks about who you are, what existence is. It doesn't talk so much about relationship, but it talks about the nature of existence and the nature of the self. The self in the Sankhya darshan is called the Purusha. Okay? So yoga, as we know it today, consists of two parts. One is to do asana and pranayama, which is in the body, which you've left behind. You can do exercise, you can do asana pranayam, you can do 25 asanas, you can do 12 asanas. All that will only make changes in the body. It does not affect the self in any significant way. The yoga by itself does not, the Yoga Sutra by itself does not have any information about any chakra. The notion of the chakras comes from the section of Kriya Yoga. So what we have today is a combination of many fields, Kriya Yoga, Agama, and the Yoga Sutra, the Yoga Sadhana. Right? But the Yoga Sadhana itself is in 8 limbs. And what we are discussing here is different from that. Okay? There will be similarities, but our objective here is to understand what is happening inside me. And why? Because if I exist, I would like to know who and how I am. Number one. Number two, I would also like to examine what are these states inside me that bother me and why they bother me and how I can set them right. And number three, how to be able to understand things using myself. Okay, as we proceed, you will see we will if you want, I mean, if you want to, we can spend a little bit more time distinguishing this from the conception yoga. Yeah, but it's on the same side of the fence. The other side of the fence, there is burger and a bar. Okay, yeah. Okay, so even here, if you see what I've really written is, we keep forming images, we analyze and detail them, and then we make choices in living. All right, I've written tasting there additionally, and all the desires we have are in the form of images, or the collection of images in turn come and end up forming desires in us. Like for instance, Sahil and Farah were here. Before they came to the workshop, Sahil communicated to her his experience of the previous workshop. In that scene, the place, the board, the cows, the trees, everything was similar. But when he came here, the image did not match his previous image because yeah, alag hai, whatever, it is different. But they left in 4 days. Now they've gone back with images of this workshop, not just of the place, not just of me and the clothes I wore, but of what was being communicated there and what it meant and what it could mean. The other image they also had was of all the people and the interactions they had. The third was of the physical experience. This is definitely a better place to stay than Bombay, right? Nice air, nice wind, clean air, clean water. So all these images are formed. Next December, when they have holidays, in September itself they start planning. Let us not get interrupted in December because we want to go back. And that forms a desire. Now we are going to analyze and detail it. Last time अपना planning ठीक नहीं था. We drove down. This time let us book our tickets in time. It was very tiring. Okay, so we're going to improve on our ability to finish that. Why? Because we want to experience that workshop again. And what is it they're going to experience? When they come back, they're not coming back for the food. If they want to eat this food, they can just go to a North Karnataka restaurant in Bangalore, in Bombay. If they just want to have a get together with nice people, there are easier way to do that. But they will come back for this because they feel it is somewhere related to their overall objective of living. I mean, if they do. You understand this? I'm taking that example to kind of demonstrate how these activities function. So we have many images inside us, out of which one then becomes a desire. Like yesterday when we did the activity of making a list of our desires, essentially what we did was all of us made a list of all the images we have inside. I want a farm, I want to do swimming, I want to be a big person, I want enlightenment for myself, I want my neighbor to be enlightened, not me. I want to enlighten the world. Okay. I want to do good for humanity. I want to travel extensively. What are all? All those are images that are sitting inside. They are visuals. Some of the visuals are to do with sensory objects. Some of the visuals are to do with people and what they have done to me or what I would like to do to them. Some of the visuals are to do with what I want to do. And what I want to do, I want to become, my purpose could be a doctor, an engineer, a CA. But slowly I realized that these titles, these, uh, you know, degrees are essentially a means to something. A means to what? A means to understanding, a means to success, a means to get a job. Getting a job is a means to something. It's a means to be able to get material things. That is a means to something. That is an ability to take care of the body. So each one of us has a big basket of images, some of which become our desires. For instance, I have images of having gone abroad. I have no desire to go abroad again. I really don't because I don't know what I'll do. I don't know anybody there. Nobody there is interested in any of this. Nobody that I know of. I'm sure there would be people who are interested. And I don't want to spend any day of my life with anything to do other than this. ऐसा हो गया. Every day it has to be related to this or I'm with my family. बाकी खाना पीना तो चलता है. Wherever you go there is food and a toilet. ये चलता ही रहता है. खाना भी है, टॉयलेट भी है. कभी खुला है, कभी पानी नहीं है, ड्राई टॉयलेट है. बहुत सारा है ना. अभी तो वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू गो आउटसाइड. हर जगह टॉयलेट. चूजिंग की जगह हाँ आशा. सो आई विल राइट द हिंदी वर्ड हियर. ये चूजिंग को बाकी वर्कशॉप में सिलेक्टिंग बोलते हैं. मैंने इसको चूजिंग वर्ड यूज किया. आई विल राइट द हिंदी टर्म. आशा, विचार, in italics I will write it, okay, and in this is called chayan, aswadan. This is called reflection. This is called chitran. 4.5 ही. हाँ, अभी तो 4.5 वगैरह नहीं लिखा. अभी इतना ही, मतलब बाकी का आएगा ये करके. बट जस्ट व्हेन वी से इमेजिनेशन, अंदर ये सब हो रहा है. We did imagination before this. I told you there is a cow, there was Gangotri, there was water. What happened? These images started forming. But the moment we heard of the cow and blood was coming out, the scene started becoming gory. We started rejecting and saying, I don't want to see that image anymore. So that is my tasting. When I taste that, I don't want to see that. I mean, even if you eat beef, you don't want to see a cow with its blood on the street. Nobody will then want to eat that cow unless you're very desperate. Okay? Yeah. It's still not on. Yeah.
And so say I want to pick up a good habit or I want to leave a bad habit according to me, right? So when I have this desire, I come back and I relate it, whether is it a sensory or is it related to feelings.
Uh-huh.
So sometimes, when certain things happens, I crave for coffee. So I'm just giving an example, right? So
Yeah, I
now,
forgot we should discuss coffee. I was going to discuss it.
no,
No, I'm
I'm
actually
good.
carrying some. Sorry, I forgot. We are actually carrying some leftover coffee sachets from our trip to Gangotri. We stayed in some places, and I thought if there's no milk, we were three of us who drink coffee at 5 o'clock. And so I had carried these ready-mix coffee packets, and हर जगह दूध मिला. I was surprised. Even at 10,000 feet, we were able to get milk. So humans have become very prosperous. 10,000 फुट में भी दूध मिलता है भाई रात को, है ना? And he had brew. Everything is available everywhere. So वो मेरा बच गया. I didn't know what to do with it, so I carried it to this workshop. So if the host permits us, we will, make a brew and just give it. It's not very good coffee, but it's like that ready mix with sugar and milk powder and, whatever. Yeah, it's very sweet though. I don't have sweet coffee. I have it bitter. Yeah.
So I'm just trying to say this, give this example because I want to know whether my understanding is correct. So when I come back and when I see whether it could be a sensory or it could be a feelings, right? So now I analyze and then I come back and see what is the purpose. Should I pick it up or should I leave it? So
Yeah.
is this how I interpret? I have to do the
Yeah.
interpretation.
One at a time. Because also that, one is we spend all our lifetime without even knowing this is happening. So first things first, one is to put life jackets on. So is that yours? No. अच्छा आपका है. ओके. इनको कुछ एक्साइटमेंट है लाइफ जैकेट में. हाँ. नदी में किसके साथ गए? हाँ ठीक है. डोंट गो अलोन. स्विमिंग. Imagination of water. So the first thing really to do is to examine oneself and see whether we're able to locate these different activities in us. Right now it's been what, 20 minutes since we started discussing it. So we first start by examining. I mean, is it that I'm doing tasting? Right now you don't have to do anything about it. Okay? Just see that there are images. See that there is analysis. See that there is expecting. See that there is tasting. Number one. Then, you know, after that, maybe you do this for a week and not do anything else. Because if you try to do all of it together, it's going to be hard. It's really not possible. I mean, I don't think it's possible. Then after the week, you say, okay, are there three kinds of tasting? So what I would do is I would pick one aspect. Let's say I'm going to spend 5 days just looking at what images I have. Maybe I'll note it down. Then I'm going to spend the next week just looking at whether I analyze. Because see, all those blank spaces are going to get filled. Life will get more complicated as we proceed. This is the introduction to imagination. Okay, and too bad that we have so many. I wish there were less, but we have more. I can't do anything about it. Okay, we should have been like a goat. A goat has only one: tasting, sensory, khatam, choosing, no thinking, no analysis, no profit loss, no images, no desire. I'll be the biggest goat. कुछ नहीं, शांत, है ना? That's called living with instinct. So the first step is to examine the activities, maybe one at a time. You could take one activity for a day or one for a week. Then the second is, once we recognize that these activities are happening, then you can do the remainder. And I have actually moved yesterday's exercise that we did to under this subject. So when I give the PowerPoint, you'll have all the points, and there will be plenty more to do. This is going to take time. Yeah. So one is first examine and identify what's there, and then assess whether it's useful or not. So when we're looking at activities in the self here, like I said, are you tasting? Are you imaging? And then if you look at the content of what I have towards people, is that what I want to have towards so and so person? Was that right? Was it wrong? Because all this is sitting in here. It's not outside. That person, I mean, the same person that I like or I have been with at some point in time suddenly becomes somebody I don't like. So what has changed? My the set of experiences has changed. The way I see that entity has changed, right? And also here, the approach, since you brought up the subject, the approach is also not to remove what is negative. You'll see that the negative exists in the expectation of something good and positive. So we'll talk about what should exist, and that's what we'll pay attention to. So when we talk of human relationships and living in family and with people, we will examine what these relationships are, all right, and what is the natural state of being that I'd like to be in that relationship. So you will also need some theoretical input, okay? And also, this workshop is an introductory workshop. This is a preliminary introduction. I'll talk a little more about um, the remainder of the stages on the last day. Yeah. For instance, ulta करके देखते हैं ना. We'll see how this works. And in fact, there are a lot of slides there, but we can just stick to the board. I want to be a big man. मैं बड़ा आदमी बनना चाहता हूँ. What is that? That's an image of me being big. What is the image of me being big? I have money, I have power, पहचान, है ना? Car. वो big का जो association है, could be big car. Some people feel they'll become big by having a big dog. Okay. Some people, they will become big by marrying somebody from a big family. How you become big is different. First is I want to be big. Then if you look at the meaning of big is going to be different for everybody. So they are sub images. So the meaning of big could be a big businessman. Uh, you know, a big businessman, but who lives simply. That is also one पहचान. इतना बड़ा आदमी इतना साधारण रहता है. इतना बड़ा आदमी इतना बड़ा रहता है. Has a big car, a big house, a big dog. Big could also be I've done something good in the social sector. ये मेरा पहचान है. I am a spiritual leader. पहचान है. I am a simple. So there's so many big. So you could have one or more of these images. Now, if this becomes a desire, when does it become a desire? When all the images don't end up becoming my desire, right? So some images end up becoming my desire. Which ones? Those that I feel are going to give me happiness. Out of these images, one of them will get associated with my happiness, or let's just call it fulfillment. Okay, because we said happiness के अलग अलग layers है ना, so put together let's just call it fulfillment. Now I'm going to analyze how will I become big. What do I need to do? I need to earn money. I need a big house, so I need land. उसके लिए I need money. If I already have money, who will I get the house done by? Then I will go and see everybody else's houses. My house should look different. तभी तो big है, नहीं तो सबके जैसा है तो क्या फायदा, right? I'm going to do all this analysis. What do I do in analysis? I break down this image that I have into its smaller parts. And every time this testing is also happening. अच्छा है, बुरा है, should I do, should I not do? And then finally I go and make, and there is an expectation of doing it. So finally when the whole plan is formed up, I say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. You'll go ahead and execute it via the body. Which is why yesterday when we did the exercise, I written a line, a small line, saying that we basically our desires drive us. This is what keeps us running. इधर से अब इधर का जो इनपुट है, इज इट फॉर दिस, 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 इसमें फर्क. ये जो टारगेट है डिजायर, what is the destination for that desire? Some desires are very small, okay, as in they have a narrow objective. They happen simultaneously. When you examine an activity, then you will find that there was some sequence. Like it depends on where you start. Like I arrived here, this was an event. What is the desire behind that? So actually it started with Santosh Bhaiya coming to our house. So I had no plan of coming to Dharwad. He landed in our house 3 years ago. कन्नड़ के चक्कर में. मेरी पत्नी कन्नड़ी का है ना. Then he said, "आप एक बार आइए." 1 year after he arrived, I came here for 2 days. 1 year after we came here for 2 days, I said, "Okay, let's do it for 10 days." If he had not persisted, I would have given up. Okay. So if you look at where did it start, him arriving. So there was a material event. His coming here, his talking to us, him giving an image of a workshop in Dharwad, me putting it in standby. Then him persisting again, so that image became a little stronger. Then I too thought इस बार छुट्टी है. But then I put a condition 10 दिन. So he hesitated. कौन आएगा? तो कोई नहीं आएगा तो भी ठीक है. बस 10 दिन ही करेंगे. It's okay if you have less people. Doesn't matter. If somebody is going to weigh their life with plus or minus 3 days, anyways they don't need to be here then. 3 दिन में क्या होगा? कुछ नहीं होगा. You can sleep. You get drunk. You get up in 3 days. Nothing happens. 3 days is nothing. So there was analysis, and then we came here. So that's how you would start. But if you go behind that event, there is a desire in me to share this with people. Okay, remember that desire that I did. Mera ek sharing. Where does that desire come from? Because it is part of the practice. Why is it part of the practice? Because it will help me check myself. Okay, assess what I'm doing. It will also fulfill a naitik jimmedari, a kind of duty that I have. Somebody gave it to me, so I'm passing it on. Azan. Okay, this is a 10-day azan. You know, azan is on. Some people listen, some people don't listen. Some people come inside the masjid, others leave. ऐसा है. So, so I have an acceptance that that is the right thing to do, and that is part of my life. That has allowed me to take out time for the workshop. After that, Santoshji came. He persisted. That became big. We found time. We had the money. Society allowed us. Devika school allowed us. My parents allowed us. Gauri's parents didn't fall down. They are 85. कभी भी गिर सकते हैं. So we hired a person to be with them for 24 hours. दिन का 1200 रुपए उस आदमी को दे रहे हैं इधर. So we can be here. वो गिर गया तो उनको उठाएगा कौन? So they are alone. My parents have also left. वो कहीं मेरे भाई के साथ वाला सरदार पटेल को देखने गए, है ना? So there nobody, they are alone. Every day Gauri is on the touch with them. Are you fine? Did you fall? वो वॉकर में है. So we had the money to pay, है ना? 1200 रुपए नहीं तो कैसा देंगे भाई? Every day. So for every day that I'm spending here, I have to pay somebody 1200 bucks to be there. We had the money, the ticket, the train did not crash, all that, and then we reached here. So if you look at the background events, it's a huge series of events that allows anything to happen.
I have a question.
Yeah.
While we are doing anything, actually we are doing twice. Once when we are actually doing it, and before that we are planning.
Yeah.
So that happens normally with every kind of activities. So what is use of going very deep into it, breaking into different parts and stages? What is the use of it?
The use is number one. The first use is if I'm curious to know who and how I am, then it helps fulfill that curiosity. If I'm not curious, then it's not of much use. It doesn't matter. I said it's okay. So one is it fulfills curiosity. The other use is that my state of being, of wellness, of well-being, of fulfillment is dependent on the fulfillment or contradictions that I have within. In the level of my desiring visuals, in my ability to analyze and in my tasting. This makes up the sum total of my experience. So if somebody or some system tells me, right, that I have the ability to examine that and ensure that my overall happiness quotient or experience can be improved, or I can reduce the kind of contradictions that I have by doing it, then it makes sense for me to do it. So, in a nutshell, the need to do it is twofold. One is to fulfill curiosity. Why understand myself? Okay. One is curiosity. This is also called jigyasa because I want to know. Why do we go to the moon? 500 करोड़ रुपया खर्चा किया, everybody clap. क्या है? इधर से भी समझ में आता है there is nothing there. You don't have to go there. Already somebody has gone and found out there is nothing there. Curiosity. English में कहावत है, curiosity kills the cat. Here is the cat won't die. But curiosity. We are curious. So if we are curious about understanding ourselves, then we get the fulfillment from fulfilling that curiosity. So this is one fulfillment. So one fulfillment we get is from knowledge. This is from knowing the unknown. है ना, इसको बोलते हैं अज्ञात को ज्ञात करना. I'll write it in Devanagari. If my Hindi teacher heard me now, she would have thrown me out. Her name was Mrs. Gupta. And she didn't like me and she didn't like Madrasis. Because Madrasis don't care for Hindi. Right? And I didn't like Hindi. Because at my home, nobody liked Hindi. So we were not allowed to speak in Hindi when I was at home. So I kept failing in Hindi. And I would keep talking in class. And midway into the class, she'll say, you Madrasi, you get out. And I'd be very happy to go out. Bola to bache, I can get out of the Hindi class. And Bahar, it was very beautiful. Our school had a huge playground, big mountain at the back. There was a valley, and in the rainy season, be very good. Chutkara paya Hindi se, hai na? I would fail in every Hindi exam. They would give grace marks, and because I was good at mathematics and science and English and history, तो अभी हिंदी के लिए कोई किसी को फेल करेगा क्या? They would push you ahead in an English medium school. So yeah, but now my Hindi is pretty good. So one is to fulfill curiosity. The other is to better or improve my happiness. Okay? Or freedom from conflict or unhappiness. ये दो हो सकता है. मेरे अंदर कॉन्फ्लिक्ट है ना? तो मेरे अंदर क्या है? इफ आई डोंट एग्जामिन कॉन्फ्लिक्ट कैसे जाएगा? या तो द कॉन्फ्लिक्ट बिकम द सोर्स फॉर माई हैप्पीनेस, तो भी ठीक है, मजा आ रहा है ना? बट वो भी नहीं है. There can be one of these two. So this is called or to acquire. So freedom from my conflict, unhappiness, or my expectation. Not freedom from expectation, but fulfill it. Okay, इसका जो fulfillment है. So this is called अप्राप्त को प्राप्त करना. ना, मैं प्रधानमंत्री बनना चाहता हूँ, नहीं बन पा रहा हूँ. आई हैव मनी, मेरे पास माँ है, घर है, पैसा है, लेकिन प्रधानमंत्री नहीं बन पा रहा हूँ. तो क्यों प्रधानमंत्री बनना चाहता है? कहाँ होता है? So you examine. So these are the two reasons we would do this. Of course, one can always say this is all too much and I'll just go and sleep. That's also okay. You can disappear down the board. बोर्ड के नीचे जगह रखा ही है. That is sleep. ये निद्रा है. Just sleep it out. But the thing is, life catches up. We won't let you live. And we'll see by tomorrow or day after that you have to do it either in this lifetime or the other. So that's the only way out or up. Alright? So one has to develop curiosity, then one has to fulfill it. So we spend the first 1.5 days trying to establish some curiosity. Curiosity is there, that's why you responded to it. So that's why our invitation note itself was designed in such a way that if you are not curious, you will not come. So why waste your time? We didn't say you'll get to do camping here, there'll be a nice bonfire, we'll give you tandoori paneer, and it's all for half the price that it is outside. It's an ecotourism resort. You will get happiness. You will get to do some, bonfire. You will learn how to make soap. वो सब एक्टिविटी बेस्ड है. बच्चों के लिए ठीक है. This is a curiosity workshop. The rover that the US sent, that NASA sent to Mars, was called Curiosity. It wanted to find out what is there in Mars. Curiosity rover. It full curiosity. Yeah, it will go back to the same distance backward. Yeah. So we will talk of a pendulum. I've actually drawn a pendulum here, and we'll see what the scope of the pendulum is. So what also happens is, in this country, in this subcontinent, because this country is a new phenomenon. There was no country, no, there's nothing called India before 1947. Just the Brits put it together. Uh, in this subcontinent, people have uh, tried, or basically postulated, that in order to be able to understand yourself, you have to let go of living. This material and behavioral is basically इसको त्यागना पड़ता है. So then, from there arises the notion that if I do the other two, which is either intellectual or spiritual, this will cease to exist. That's the notion that has been provided. But it actually doesn't happen. The guy is still breathing, he's still eating, he's still going to the toilet, he's still talking to somebody. It's just not possible to finish this off till you're alive. You have to die. The world will still be there. So we've been given to believe, or the messaging is such, although it doesn't happen, and that messaging is so strong that आपको यदि आध्यात्मिक होना है, if you have to be spiritual, then you have to let go of these things to begin with. That's why when you go to the forest monastery in Thailand, you get to eat once a day, just enough to sustain the body. And one of the practices they do is to keep walking the entire night meditating. Because if you sit, you'll sleep. So you keep walking and meditating. उसके बाद भी ज्ञान नहीं होता है. Okay? And yeah. 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 Something is different. In nature, never. So when we look at nature, and we'll open existence more, but just to kind of you know give you a small inkling into it, we will see that when we look at existence, right now I'll just write some vague words. So when we come to it, we'll pinpoint it. One is there is um, there is emptiness or void or energy. Okay, I will open this up. We won't leave it as a mystery. Then there is matter, which is atom, which is the temple itself, the patthar, the stone. The temple is made of stone. Okay, and there are sentient or conscious entities. Okay, so when we are experiencing matter and atoms, it is via the senses. When you go to the temple and you see the nice, like when you go to Hampi. When I went to Hampi for the first time, I was awestruck. Anybody been to Hampi? Pampapati. Very beautiful. Huge stones, and even Belur, Halebid. Karnataka has fantastic architecture. You're awestruck. So that's really the natural environment that we see. But for things like this, we are able to experience certain things directly in the conscious because of sentient or conscious entities. So when we look at existence, we'll find that there is this, and there is also this. So sometimes you're experiencing this, via the senses and via the intellect. Now, sometimes you may experience this directly. No, not just the stones. No, no, not just the stones, I said. It's not the stone that will give you a buzz in your head. Yeah. Stones will not buzz in the head. You have to come out because you have your job, you have to pay the EMI, there is a wife waiting outside. That's it. इन दोनों का आज काम मिल गया. Tea break. So I'll just finish this slide. Yeah. Do we get what? The buzz? You get clarity. See, there are uh, three things that can happen, three things that people seek. Typically, in our subcontinent, people have tried to seek or acquire certain experiences, which they like to call spiritual experiences, which is why I'm a little careful about using the word spiritual. But what you mean by spiritual experiences are these experiences that are not sensory, that can't be explained by, by the body alone. Uh, in this study, you will not get the third one. You will not get this. And that's really not needed because that doesn't help beyond the point. It doesn't help you live. It doesn't help you clarify anything. Here you will get the first two. Yeah. So if you go into the temple and lose yourself, this will pull you out again. Yeah. And this is also a source of happiness, right? So this is a happiness of type 2. It's not sensory. It will last for a few more years, then it will stop listening to me. But till then, I'll enjoy it. You don't share it. So there are three things we'll get: clarity of, basically seeing or awakening. B, clarity or definiteness or naturalness of living as a human. Okay. And the C is question mark. Okay. Spiritual in Hindi you would call it khufiya. खुफिया मतलब कुछ तो हो गया इसको. He got a buzz and then he's never the same. His body heated up. If he touches water, it becomes ice. That kind of thing, right? Experiences. In this method, in the coexistentialism, that what we are studying, you'll only get the first two. If you want the third, you have to go and do something else. But उससे ये 1 and 2 नहीं होता है. You may get special abilities. You can heat water by touching it. You don't need a boiler. But it's easier to just put stick and heat water instead of trying to spend one lifetime कि मैं पैर छूने से पानी गर्म हो जाएगा. बाबा गैस है, चूल्हे में गर्म कर ले. Let's work on things more meaningful. ठीक है? This will not happen for a very long. In this you will get these two. So the seeing, awakening or understanding will happen through this process. And also the clarity and definiteness of what to do with people, how to live as a human being will happen. Okay? So we'll have tea and come back.